Every morning, millions of people open their eyes to the same routine. They brush their teeth, scroll through their phones, rush out the door and deep down believe this life is fixed. But what if I told you that everything could change, not with a dramatic event, but with the smallest, most overlooked decisions you make, hour by hour? This is not a motivational speech. It's a message carried through time, whispered by emperors and echoed by philosophers. The Stoics, masters of clarity, self-mastery, and reason, didn't chase chaos. They mastered calm, and in doing so, they uncovered a path to power far greater than status or riches. So today, I want to show you that path through 9 essential Stoic habits that can elevate your life from survival to significance. Part 1. Mindset, the invisible force behind everything. Your mindset is not a simple filter, it's the operating system of your life. Every reaction, every interpretation, every choice runs through it. The Stoics didn't just talk about positivity, they practiced mental precision. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up smiling at the chaos of empire. He trained his mind to respond, not react. They believed this: your happiness isn't stolen by events, it's surrendered by reaction. So what's the first Stoic habit? Observe your thoughts without judgment. Before reacting, pause. Ask yourself, is this emotion helping me? Is my judgment based on facts or fear? Build a mindset like a fortress, clear, calm, unshakable. Part 2. Health, the Stoic way to strengthen body and soul. In the eyes of the Stoics, health was never just about a fit body or avoiding illness. It was something far more integrated, more profound. True health, according to Stoicism, is a balance, a delicate harmony between body, mind, and soul. We live in a time where physical health is glamorized, sculpted abs, kale smoothies, step counters. But the Stoics, they understood something deeper, that physical strength without inner resilience is fragile, and mental clarity without bodily discipline is incomplete. To live well, you must care for both the vessel and the voice within it. So, let's begin with the body. The Stoics believed that your body is not just flesh and bone, it is a tool, a medium through which you act with virtue. When you neglect your health, you're not just harming yourself, you're weakening your ability to serve your purpose. Every time you skip rest, indulge in excess, or avoid movement, you chip away at your potential for excellence. That's why exercise, to a Stoic, isn't about appearance, it's about discipline. Each time you push through discomfort, when your muscles ache, when your mind wants to quit, you're practicing perseverance. You're training your will. You're becoming someone who follows through. Even the simplest daily movement, a walk at dawn, a stretch at midday, can remind you that your body is sacred. It is the ground upon which your virtue stands. Now, let's talk about what fuels it. Your diet is more than food. It's a reflection of your relationship with desire. Do you eat to nourish or to numb? The Stoics taught moderation, not as punishment, but as liberation. Because when you can say no to momentary cravings, you say yes to something greater: clarity, stability, and freedom. A clean mind often begins with a clean system. A body nourished with intention supports a mind that thinks clearly and a spirit that rests peacefully. But the Stoics didn't stop at physical wellness. They understood that mental and emotional health were not luxuries, they were necessities. Without them, strength becomes aggression, intelligence becomes anxiety, power becomes volatility. That's why they practiced self-reflection, not once a year but every day. They wrote in journals, they examined their reactions, they asked hard questions. Why did that anger me? Was my fear justified? Did I act according to virtue today? This wasn't therapy. It was philosophical hygiene, a way to cleanse the mind, to clear out resentment, envy, frustration before it took root. And what about emotions? The Stoics never said, don't feel. They said, don't be ruled. Emotions, to them, were visitors, messengers, but never masters. They taught us to sit with emotion, to listen, to ask, "What are you trying to teach me?" And then to respond, not with impulse, but with insight. So, what does a Stoic approach to health look like in your daily life? It starts with consistency over intensity. Move your body every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. Choose foods that sustain you, not sedate you, and make time to reflect, not just on what happened, but on how you responded and why. This is how you build a body that serves your mission, a mind that protects your peace, and a soul that stays anchored even when the storms come. Health is not a destination, it's a practice, a quiet ritual of care that whispers to the world, "I respect myself. I am preparing for something greater." Part 3. Learning. How the Stoics trained their minds for a life of wisdom. Learning, for the Stoics, was never about accumulating information. It wasn't about degrees, diplomas, or achievements to be hung on a wall. No, to them, learning was transformation. It was how you sharpened your soul, how you became wiser, stronger, and more aligned with virtue, day after day. And here's something the modern world often forgets. The Stoics didn't separate philosophy from life. They lived it. They didn't read books just to sound smart. They read to understand how to live better, how to suffer less, how to be more useful to the world around them. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, ruler of millions, spent his nights writing quietly to himself, not to publish, not to impress, but to reflect, to remember, to refine. His journal, Meditations, wasn't a book for the world. It was a private notebook of learning in motion. Why? Because learning is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong commitment to awareness and to change. The Stoics knew this. What you learn becomes who you are, if you live it. So what does that look like, practically? It starts with critical thinking, not just solving hard problems, but asking better questions. Why did this happen? What belief of mine was challenged? Am I acting from wisdom or ego? In our chaotic world, people race to form opinions, but the Stoic pauses, observes, listens, reflects, because wisdom isn't about being right. It's about seeing clearly. The second layer of Stoic learning is application. You can read every book in the world on self-control, but if you snap in traffic or panic under pressure, the knowledge hasn't rooted yet. So the Stoic doesn't just learn and forget. They practice. They test ideas in the real world, through silence, through restraint, through choosing what is right over what is easy. One of their greatest tools, journaling, but not in the Dear Diary kind of way. Journaling, to a Stoic, is reflection in motion. It's how they decode their day. They ask, what did I do well? Where did I fall short? How can I respond better next time? This habit of self-review is like sharpening a blade, small strokes, daily, until your mind is clear and your choices are deliberate. Another key to Stoic learning is humility. A true Stoic never believes they've arrived, because the moment you think you know everything, you stop growing. They stayed curious. They studied nature. They studied people. They listened more than they spoke. They found lessons in the ordinary, a sunset, a harsh word from a stranger, the way a child laughs without worry. And they also learned from others, not just from those they agreed with, but especially from those who challenged them, because real growth comes not from echo chambers, but from being stretched. So what can you do today to embrace the Stoic way of learning? Read, yes, but also reflect. Don't just highlight a quote. Ask yourself how to live it. Have conversations, not to win, but to understand. And stay curious, even about your flaws, especially about your flaws, because the more you understand yourself, the more control you gain over your choices. To the Stoic, learning isn't a path to superiority, it's a path to service. To become someone who acts not from ignorance, but from intention, someone who brings clarity, not confusion, peace, not noise. Keep your mind open, keep your ego quiet, and above all, keep learning. Part 4. Relationships, building Stoic bonds that withstand time and turmoil. The quality of your life is often measured by the quality of your relationships, not the number of them, not how many followers you have, but the depth, the honesty, the intention behind each connection. And the Stoics knew this. They understood that we, as human beings, are not meant to walk through life in isolation. We are social creatures, wired for connection, but that connection, if not rooted in virtue, can either lift us or slowly pull us under. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, relationships should be a mutual elevation, not just a comfort zone. So what does that mean in practice? It begins with your relationship with yourself. You see, you can't expect harmony with others if you're at war within. If you lie to yourself, criticize yourself, abandon your own needs, that internal chaos will bleed into every conversation, every relationship, every decision. So take time to know yourself. Reflect on your values. Be honest about your flaws. Forgive your past, but hold yourself accountable for your future. Because the first Stoic relationship is self-respect. From there, the circle widens to family, to friends, to colleagues. The Stoic approach here is simple, but profound. Show up, be present, act with virtue. It's not about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent moments of integrity. A kind word when it's not expected. A moment of patience when tempers flare. A choice to listen fully, not to respond, but to understand. These moments build trust, and trust, once broken, is hard to restore, something the Stoics warned us about. Words, once spoken, cannot be retrieved. So, speak with care, act with clarity. Don't burn bridges just because your emotions demand it. Now, relationships aren't always easy. You'll be wronged, misunderstood, betrayed, but the Stoic doesn't react with vengeance. They respond with wisdom. Because in the Stoic worldview, you cannot control how others behave. You can only control how you respond, with patience, with calm, and with principle. Equanimity in relationships doesn't mean being cold or detached. It means being stable, grounded. It means offering love without expectation and setting boundaries without guilt. And here's something powerful to remember. Sometimes the Stoic path means walking away, not out of anger, but out of alignment. Not every relationship deserves permanent space in your life. If it threatens your virtue, your peace, your progress, it's okay to let go. But letting go doesn't mean resentment. It means release, a soft exhale that says, "I choose peace over pride." So how can you start building Stoic relationships today? Start small. Reach out to someone, not to impress, but to truly check in. Be present with the people you love. Not half there, eyes on your phone, mind elsewhere, but fully, soulfully, in the moment. Speak less, listen more, judge slowly, forgive freely, and most of all, treat every connection as an opportunity, not just to be understood, but to understand, not just to receive, but to give, not just to be loved, but to love wisely. Because in the end, relationships are not just about what they bring to you, but about who they allow you to become. Part 5. Productivity. How the Stoics got more done by doing less in today's world. Productivity is worshipped like a religion. We wear busyness like a badge of honor, back-to-back meetings, overflowing to-do lists, constant notifications, but beneath it all, a silent question echoes, are we actually moving forward or just spinning faster? The Stoics had an answer, and it wasn't do more, it was do what matters. To them, productivity wasn't about output, it was about alignment. Alignment with values, with purpose, with the very essence of what it means to live wisely and well. Marcus Aurelius, arguably one of the busiest men in history, emperor of Rome, commander of armies, didn't fill his day with noise. He filled it with intention. He asked himself constantly, is what I'm doing right now essential? If the answer was no, he let it go. That is the Stoic model of productivity, not frantic motion, but focused meaning. So how do we apply this today? It begins with a single truth. You cannot do everything, but you can do the right things. The first Stoic practice here is morning reflection. Before the chaos begins, stop. Ask yourself, what is truly worth my time today? What action, if done with full presence, would bring me closer to who I want to become? Don't build your day around urgency. Build it around virtue. Focus on tasks that strengthen your discipline, your clarity, your purpose. Leave the rest. Next, do one thing at a time. The modern mind loves to multitask, but the Stoic mind knows better. When you divide your attention, you dilute your presence. And without presence, there is no excellence. When you write, write. When you speak, speak. When you walk, walk. Bring your whole self to each task, and suddenly, even the smallest action becomes sacred. Another vital Stoic tool, deep work. This isn't just productivity jargon. It's a state of focused flow, where distractions fade, where your full attention merges with effort, and where your work becomes not just efficient, but fulfilling. To enter this state, you must first guard your attention like a sacred temple. Turn off what doesn't serve you. Say no more often. Protect your focus, not just for results, but for your sanity. But what about when things go wrong? When distractions pile up? When energy dips? When plans fail? The Stoic doesn't panic, they adapt. Because resilience is a part of true productivity. It's not about perfect days. It's about returning again and again to what matters, even after setbacks. And finally, take time to review. At the end of your day, reflect. What did I do well? What felt misaligned? What can I do better tomorrow? This daily self-audit doesn't make you rigid, it makes you conscious. It ensures that your growth is not accidental, but deliberate. So here's the Stoic way to be productive. Begin with purpose, prioritize with clarity, focus with presence, adapt with grace, reflect with honesty. Remember, the goal isn't to get more done, it's to get the right things done, so that each hour you live leaves a mark that matters. Part 6. Finances, how the Stoics found wealth without chasing it money. It's one of the greatest sources of ambition and anxiety. We chase it, fear losing it, judge others by it. But ask yourself honestly, has more money always meant more peace? Or have we confused wealth with worth? The Stoics were no strangers to wealth. Seneca was a millionaire. Marcus Aurelius ruled the richest empire of his time, but they saw money not as a goal but as a tool, a servant to virtue, not its master. Here's a truth the Stoics lived by. Having more means nothing if you don't know how to live well with less. So what is the Stoic approach to finances? It begins with one word: contentment. Not complacency, not laziness, but a powerful ability to see what you have and recognize it as enough. Because when you stop chasing what you don't need, you begin to truly value what you already possess. The Stoic asks, do I control my money, or does my money control me? This shift in mindset transforms everything. Suddenly, success isn't about luxury, it's about freedom. Freedom to live in alignment with your values, to provide for your needs without enslaving yourself to wants. Next comes prudence, the virtue of wise decision-making. A Stoic doesn't spend impulsively. They don't invest based on hype or fear. They pause, reflect, ask, does this expense serve my purpose, or does it satisfy a fleeting desire? They understand that every coin you spend is a choice, a statement of what you value. So choose with intention. Budgeting for the Stoic isn't just about cutting back, it's about clarity, knowing where your energy and your income are flowing, and whether that flow supports your deeper goals or distracts from them. Then there's saving. To the Stoic, saving money isn't hoarding out of fear, it's preparing out of wisdom, because the future, by nature, is uncertain, and foresight is the mark of a virtuous mind. They save not just for security, but for service, to be able to help others in need, to handle adversity with grace, to give without fear of lack. And speaking of giving, let's talk about generosity. The Stoics believed that money reaches its highest purpose when used for the good of others. Support a friend, help your family, contribute to something greater than yourself, because real wealth is not in what you accumulate, but in what you're willing to share. So how do you live with money? The Stoic way. Start by asking yourself, what are my true needs? Which expenses reflect my values and which feed my ego? Am I using money to build my life or to escape it? Review your finances like you review your thoughts. With honesty and courage, track where it goes. Cut what weighs you down. Invest in what lifts you up. Because in the end, money is just a mirror. It reveals what you serve. And the Stoic serves only one master, virtue. Part 7. Creativity. How Stoics used imagination to solve life's hardest problems. When you think of Stoicism, the word creativity might not be the first thing that comes to mind. We often picture stern faces, strict logic, quiet self-discipline. But what if I told you that the Stoics were highly creative, not in spite of their philosophy, but because of it? Creativity, to the Stoics, wasn't just about painting or poetry. It was the art of thinking differently, the ability to reframe problems, to see options others couldn't, to take what life throws at you and make something meaningful out of it. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic minds, was not just a philosopher. He was a playwright, a dramatist, someone who understood that storytelling could shape how we see the world, and more importantly, how we navigate it. Because at its core, creativity is not about being artistic, it's about being adaptive. So how does Stoic creativity work? It starts with curiosity, the urge to ask, what if there's another way? What am I not seeing yet? How can I respond, not with emotion, but with innovation? Instead of panicking in chaos, the Stoic imagines new possibilities. When trapped, they visualize freedom. When cornered by fate, they carve out space through thought, perspective, action. One of their most powerful tools was what Marcus Aurelius called the view from above. It's a mental exercise. Close your eyes. Picture yourself, not from the ground, but from the sky. See your life as a tiny part of a larger, moving world. Suddenly, what felt overwhelming shrinks. What felt personal becomes universal. What felt permanent becomes passing. That is creativity, the ability to shift perspective at will. Stoics also used journaling as a creative space, not just to reflect, but to brainstorm, to explore possibilities, challenge assumptions, and reimagine daily obstacles as opportunities. This kind of creativity doesn't require talent. It requires space. Space to think, space to question, space to imagine what could be, not just what is. And in practice, it shows up in the smallest ways, turning a stressful commute into a moment for audiobooks or deep breathing, turning a failed plan into a better, wiser version, turning criticism into insight, and setbacks into redirection. Stoic creativity is grounded, not chaotic. It doesn't escape reality. It engages with it. It says, here's what I've been given. Now how can I shape it into something beautiful, useful, or true? And above all, it's not just for personal gain. True, Stoic creativity serves the greater good. It asks, How can this idea help others? How can this project uplift, solve, clarify, or heal? Because the ultimate purpose of your imagination is not to impress, it's to contribute. So how can you cultivate this kind of creativity? Start by observing your daily problems, not as burdens, but as design challenges. Ask better questions. What's another way to see this? What would Seneca do here? Give your mind time to wander, without distraction. Great ideas rarely come when you're rushing. They come when you're still. And remember, the Stoic mind is both disciplined and imaginative. It balances logic with insight, structure with flexibility, restraint with wonder. When you train your mind to think like this, you no longer fear complexity. You welcome it, because you've learned how to turn adversity into art. Part 8. Purpose. The Stoic compass for a life that matters. There comes a point in every life when we pause and ask the question no amount of success can silence. Why am I really here? Not what do I do, not how much do I earn, but what is the point of it all? For the Stoics, this question wasn't reserved for philosophers or poets. It was the foundation of a life well lived. Because without purpose, discipline turns to burnout, success turns hollow, and even the most structured life feels adrift. But here's the beauty. Purpose, in Stoicism, isn't some grand, elusive calling. It's not reserved for emperors or heroes. It's something you live every single day through your choices, your values, your actions. The Stoics believed that our highest purpose is to live in accordance with virtue, to be just, to be courageous, to be wise, to be self-controlled. That may not sound glamorous, but in practice, it is life-changing, because when you align your daily actions with timeless principles, you stop chasing external validation and start living from internal conviction. You no longer ask, what will they think of me? You ask, is this the right thing to do? You no longer fear failure. You fear drifting from what you know is good, right, and meaningful. So how do you find your purpose? The Stoic way. You don't look outside. You look within. You ask yourself, what do I admire most in others? What principles would I fight for, even if no one noticed? What kind of person do I want to be when life tests me, not when it rewards me? Purpose isn't found. It's forged in how you show up, in the way you speak, in the things you say no to, and the things you're willing to sacrifice for. Maybe your purpose is to raise a strong, kind family, to lead with integrity in a chaotic workplace, to create something that inspires thought, to serve, to teach, to heal. Whatever it is, make it yours, and let it guide everything. Purpose gives you endurance. When life is heavy, it gives you reason to stand tall. When the world doesn't understand you, it reminds you you're not here to be understood. You're here to live truthfully. The Stoics knew that living with purpose isn't easy. Sometimes it means being misunderstood. Sometimes it means giving up comfort for conviction. Sometimes it means walking a lonely road, but walking it with your head high and your heart full. And that's why they practiced reflection. Every night they would ask themselves, did I live today with purpose? Did my actions reflect my beliefs? If this day was my last, would I be proud? Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is alignment, to close the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. So ask yourself, not tomorrow, but now, what kind of legacy am I building? What story will my choices tell? Live your purpose, not someday, but today, with clarity, courage, and commitment. Part 9. Conclusion. The Stoic path is not a destination. It's a way of being, so here we are. 9 habits, 9 pillars, 9 timeless practices drawn from ancient wisdom, brought back to life in your modern world. But if there's one thing the Stoics would remind us of as we close this chapter, it's this: the journey never truly ends, because the Stoic path is not a checklist. not a goal you reach and then rest. It is a daily choice to live with intention even when no one is watching, to rise each morning not chasing applause or approval, but asking, how can I serve the world with virtue today? The path is quiet, uncelebrated, often uncomfortable, but it leads to something rare in this world, inner peace, not the kind that comes from success or praise or a perfect day, but the kind that comes from knowing you are walking your truth, you are living in alignment with what matters. So what now? Don't try to change everything at once. That's not the Stoic way. Instead, start small. Start with one habit, one thought, one response that honors who you truly want to be. Write in a journal tonight. Reflect on your reactions. Ask yourself one question. Did I live according to what I believe in? If yes, good. If no, even better. Because now you're aware, and awareness is where transformation begins. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be intentional, to grow, to stumble, and rise again, stronger, wiser, more grounded. And know this, you are not walking this path alone. Here, on this channel, in this community, we walk together, through discipline, through doubt, through growth. We walk the Stoic path, not as a performance, but as a commitment to becoming more. So thank you for being here, for thinking deeply, for caring about the kind of life you're building. If this journey resonated with you, if it stirred something inside you, subscribe and stay with us. This is just the beginning, and together we walk forward with wisdom, with virtue, with purpose.